So one of the quotes that from who one of our, in this new year, will be a new saint for our Catholic Church, that the youth group had on the shirts that we had as part of our OLP merch last year, not this year, but back in 2023 before Christmas, was the quote that if you spend time in front of the sun, you will get a suntan. If you spend time in front of Jesus in the Eucharist, you will become saints. That was one of his quotes. Blessed Carlo Acutis, who will be canonized in April. Again, remember that he died at the age of 15. This wasn't coming from some, religious nun that, spent her whole life in adoration. This was coming from a teenager who knew the value of adoration. And I was struck by the reading today, and I want to get that line, because we hear this whole image of light. And in that first reading from Isaiah, but it's interesting, the second column in our Breaking Bread books and how it's set up. Then you shall be radiant at what you see. You shall be radiant at what you see. That, I felt like that quote from Blessed Carlo, soon to be Saint Carlo, kind of reinforces this. Now, it doesn't mean, hey, all you got to do is get in front of, the light, and you're going to be automatically the light, right? There's got to be a sense of interior openness and seeking of that light to reflect the light. But there is a sense that spending time in front of the light. And yes, the light of Christ is with us everywhere, but we know there's unique ways and special ways that light is present to us. And we call them sacraments, we call them a devotion, specifically Eucharistic, devotion and adoration. And that's what Blessed Carlo was really committed to promoting. And again, we find that it's something that our youth respond to significantly, and not just in our parish, but I think throughout our church. And so this idea of spending time before the light in whatever way we can, but that there, and again, remember that when we talk about adoration, the broader sense is anytime we're in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament, Jesus in the Eucharist, even when in the tabernacle, that's considered adoration. Yes, when we expose the Blessed Sacrament and we have that type of adoration, there's a more direct contact, so to speak, that our kind of human senses can see and reinforce, but nonetheless, that time in the church. So again, New Year's resolutions coming about, to consider making those stops to the church. And I'm always inspired by the people that regularly come through OLP at random times of the day, morning, night, just to spend, whatever time that might be. And to know that intentional effort, to come here is one way we just make that invitation to let that light be radiant in us, and to shine vividly through us. We've heard the image over the years, and the different saints would reinforce it, but that call that we have to be like the moon, and sometimes Mary's called the moon, but that the church, as the bride of Christ, is called to be the moon, right? That, we're not the source of the light, but we reflect that light. And we know on a clear, night and a full moon, what an impact the moon has in bringing light to the earth, even though it has no light itself, no source of that light. So that hope, that as we start a new year and in this Christmas season, that once again, in whatever ways we can make that more real, that we can spend time in front of Jesus and make a commitment to doing that. And knowing as we do that that'll help us grow in the radiance of his light, and that we will be a manifestation of the light of Christ through our ability to reflect that light, to be radiant with that light. And in so doing, hopefully we can help the Gentiles, the kings, the wise men, the young and the old, that we can help them to become radiant in the light. And of course, not pointing to ourselves, but to Jesus Christ, pointing them to Jesus Christ. We had in the last week, we go through in the Christmas season, the Gospel of John, and we just kind of systematically make our way through it. And there's several times that John the Baptist says, "Behold the Lamb," pointing to Jesus. And again, he had to clearly say, "I'm not the light." John the Baptist, some thought he was the light, saying, "No, I'm not the light. I'm not the Lamb. I'm not the Messiah. I'm just the one to prepare the way and to point to him." And, he had to do that without Jesus being his radiance, his source of radiance prior to. But nonetheless, so even for us, how much more are we called to be radiant in that light, to point to the light, to bring others to the light, because the light, Jesus Christ, is the source of our radiance, the source of our joy, the source of all that we are.